I woke up on my wedding day at 6:30 in the morning, expecting to hear my mother's voice calling me for breakfast and my sister Courtney teasing me about being a bride. Instead, the house was silent. Completely silent. I walked downstairs in my pajamas and found a handwritten letter on the kitchen counter. My hands started shaking as I read it. The letter said that Mom, Dad, and Courtney were in Paris. First class. They chose her over my wedding day. The letter ended with words that made my stomach drop. You never deserved their love anyway. I read that letter 3 times, hoping I had misunderstood something. But no, the words stayed the same. My family had abandoned me on the most important day of my life. I grabbed my phone and called my mother. Straight to voicemail. I called my father. Same thing. I tried Courtney's number, and it rang once before going to voicemail, which meant she had deliberately rejected my call. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. I sat down at the kitchen table, still in my pajamas, staring at that letter. The handwriting was definitely Courtney's. Sharp, angular letters that looked almost aggressive on the page. She had written this deliberately, carefully, knowing exactly what it would do to me. I had always known Courtney resented me. Growing up, our parents had given her everything, because she was the difficult child, the one who threw tantrums and demanded attention. I was the responsible one, the quiet one, so I learned early that I had to take care of myself. But I never thought she hated me enough to do something like this. For weeks, Courtney had been making snide comments about my wedding. She said Marcus was boring, that our ceremony was pretentious, that I was trying too hard to be fancy. I had brushed it off as typical sister jealousy. Now I realized she had been planning this all along. I looked at the clock, 7:15 in the morning. My wedding was at 2 in the afternoon. I had less than 7 hours to pull myself together. I had 2:10. I called my best friend Jenny, and I am not ashamed to admit I was crying so hard I could barely speak. Jenny arrived at my house within 20 minutes. She found me still sitting at that kitchen table, mascara running down my face, holding that cruel letter. She grabbed the letter, read it once, and said a word I will not repeat here. Then she hugged me tight and told me we were going to make this the best wedding day ever, with or without my blood family. She helped me shower and start getting ready. We loaded my wedding dress and all my supplies into her car and headed to the venue. I kept checking my phone, hoping maybe my parents would call and explain this was all some terrible misunderstanding. But nothing. Radio silence. The venue was a beautiful garden estate about 30 minutes outside the city. Marcus and I had chosen it because it was elegant but not too formal, with white roses everywhere and a gazebo overlooking a small lake. When we arrived, I tried to put on a brave face. The wedding coordinator, a woman named Diane, greeted us with a bright smile that faded the moment she saw my expression. I pulled her aside and explained that my family would not be attending. Diane's face went pale, and she asked if we needed to adjust the seating chart. I told her yes, and to please not make a big deal about it. She nodded sympathetically and said she would take care of everything. Then Diane bit her lip and asked if we could speak privately. We went into a small office, and she closed the door. That is when she told me something that made my already terrible morning infinitely worse. Someone had called the venue yesterday afternoon, claiming to be me, and canceled half of our vendor contracts. The photographer, the videographer, the florist, the string quartet. Diane had assumed it was a legitimate change from the bride, so she had processed the cancellations. Now, with less than 6 hours until the ceremony, it was too late to rebook anyone. I felt like the ground had disappeared beneath my feet. Courtney had not just abandoned me. She had actively sabotaged my wedding. She had planned this attack for who knows how long, systematically destroying the day she knew I had been planning for months. I sat down in a chair because my legs would not hold me anymore. Jenny stood behind me with her hands on my shoulders. Diane kept apologizing, saying she should have called to confirm, but the voice on the phone had known details about the wedding that only the bride would know. Courtney must have stolen information from my planner. I seriously considered calling the whole thing off. What was the point of having a wedding without family, without photos to remember it, without music or flowers? I thought about calling Marcus and telling him we should just go to the courthouse instead. But then I thought about how happy Courtney would be if I canceled. She wanted to ruin this day. She wanted me to crumble, and I was not going to give her that satisfaction. I told Diane to do the best she could with what we had. Jenny said she would take photos on her phone. We would make it work somehow. It would not be the wedding I had dreamed of, but Marcus and I would still be married at the end of the day, and that was what mattered. I went to the bridal suite to finish getting my hair and makeup done. Jenny had hired a stylist as my wedding gift, so at least that was still happening. As I sat in the chair, watching the stylist work, I felt numb. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, and instead, it felt like a funeral. There was a knock at the door. Jenny opened it, and Marcus's mother, Catherine, stepped inside. I had only met Catherine a handful of times. She was always polite but reserved, the kind of woman who speaks softly and does not draw attention to herself. Marcus had told me his parents were private people who kept to themselves. Catherine took one look at my face and knew something was very wrong. She asked if we could talk alone. Jenny and the stylist stepped out, and Catherine sat down across from me. I broke down and told her everything. About my family abandoning me, about Courtney's letter, about the sabotaged vendors. Catherine listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then, her entire demeanor changed. Her shoulders straightened, her voice became crisp and commanding, and she pulled out her phone. I watched in amazement as Catherine made a series of phone calls. She spoke with an authority I had never heard from her before. Within 15 minutes, she had mobilized an entire team of people. A photographer arrived. Not just any photographer, but someone whose work I had seen in magazines. Catherine said he owed her a favor. Then came a videography crew with professional equipment. A florist showed up with stunning arrangements that made our original flowers look basic. Finally, a classical music ensemble arrived, instruments and all. I stared at Catherine in shock. How had she done this? How did she have these connections? Who were these people who dropped everything on a Saturday afternoon to help a stranger? Catherine sat me down and told me something that explained everything. Marcus's family owned one of the largest commercial real estate development firms in the entire region. They were not just comfortable. They were worth hundreds of millions of dollars. They kept it very private because they did not want the attention that comes with wealth. They lived modestly by choice, but they had extensive connections and resources. I felt like I had been hit by a truck. Marcus had never mentioned this. We lived in a normal apartment. He drove a regular car. He worked a regular job at the family firm, but I thought he was just a manager or something. I had no idea his family was actually wealthy. Catherine saw my expression and explained that Marcus had wanted me to love him for himself, not for his family's money. He had been planning to tell me after the wedding, once we were married, and I knew the relationship was not about wealth. She took my hand and said something I will never forget. She said, "You are family now, and my family does not let anyone destroy what matters to us. This wedding is going forward, and it is going to be spectacular." I felt overwhelmed with gratitude, but also strangely unsettled. Everything I thought I knew about Marcus's family had just shifted, but I did not have time to process it because Catherine was already coordinating with Diane to make sure every detail was perfect. The wedding was saved. Against all odds, it was actually going to happen, and it was going to be beautiful. I felt a surge of hope for the first time that day. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. It was my mother. I could hear loud music and laughter in the background. She sounded drunk and giddy. She said, "Courtney says you are probably crying right now." She showed us what she did. "You always were too sensitive. We are having the time of our lives." Then she laughed and hung up. I stood there holding the phone, feeling like I had been slapped. My parents knew. They knew what Courtney had done to my wedding, and they thought it was funny. They were in Paris, drinking champagne and laughing about my pain. The betrayal cut deeper than anything else that had happened. I could accept that Courtney hated me. But knowing that my parents actively participated in mocking me on my wedding day was almost too much to bear. Jenny came back in and saw my face. She took the phone from my hand and made me look at her. She said, "They do not deserve you. They never did. Today, you marry someone who actually loves you. Focus on that." She was right. I forced myself to breathe and push the pain down deep. I would deal with my family later. Right now, I had a wedding to get through. The ceremony was absolutely beautiful. Catherine's people had transformed the venue into something that looked like it belonged in a magazine. White roses and hydrangeas everywhere, soft lighting, elegant chairs with silk ribbons. It was more stunning than anything I had originally planned. I walked down the aisle alone, no father to give me away. For a moment, I felt that absence like a physical pain. But then I saw Marcus standing at the altar, and the look on his face made everything else fade away. He was crying, actually crying, and his expression was so full of love that I forgot to be sad. The ceremony itself was perfect. We had written our own vows, and when Marcus spoke, his voice shook with emotion. He promised to be my family, my home, my safe place. He said he would spend every day proving that I deserved to be cherished. I think half the guests were crying by the time we exchanged rings. As we were pronounced husband and wife, I noticed some people in the audience I did not recognize. Well-dressed people with expensive cameras. I assumed they were friends of Marcus's family and did not think much about it. The reception was incredible. Catherine had somehow arranged for food from one of the best caterers in the state. There was a live band. The decorations were elegant and sophisticated. Everything was first class in a way that my original budget never could have afforded. During cocktail hour, Catherine pulled me aside again. She explained that the photographer she had hired was famous for celebrity weddings. Apparently, some society reporters had gotten wind of the wedding and showed up. Catherine had approved their presence because, in her words, "Your sister wanted to humiliate you, so let's show her what she missed." I felt a strange mix of emotions. Part of me was uncomfortable with the attention. But another part of me, the part that was still hurting from my family's betrayal, felt a small spark of vindication. The reception continued, and it was genuinely joyful. Marcus's family and friends embraced me with such warmth. His father, Robert, gave a speech that made me cry. He said that family is not defined by blood but by love, and that they were honored to welcome me into theirs. Jenny gave the maid of honor speech and talked about how strong I was, how I had overcome every obstacle life threw at me. She did not mention my absent family, but everyone knew what she meant. Marcus and I had our first dance, and for those few minutes, I forgot about everything except how happy I was to be married to this man. He whispered in my ear that he loved me, and that he was sorry about how the day had started, but he would spend the rest of his life making sure I knew I was valued. During dinner, a reporter approached our table. She was polite and professional, asking if she could do a quick interview for the society section of the Sunday paper. I felt uncomfortable, but Catherine encouraged me to do it. She said it would be good to control the narrative. The interview was brief. The reporter asked about how Marcus and I met, what it was like joining such a prominent family, and what our plans were for the future. Marcus was vague but charming when she asked about the family business. He talked about real estate development, but did not give specific numbers or details. The reporter mentioned that the interview and some photos would appear in tomorrow's regional newspaper. I felt anxious about that, but Marcus squeezed my hand and told me not to worry. As the evening went on, I actually started to relax and enjoy myself. The cake was delicious, the dancing was fun, Marcus's family was wonderful. By the time we cut the cake, I felt genuinely happy. Around 9 in the evening, a local news station posted something on social media. One of the guests showed it to Jenny, who showed it to me. It was a short video segment titled "Stunning Wedding of Real Estate Heir Marcus Whitfield and His Bride." The footage was gorgeous. Professional shots of the ceremony, the venue, Marcus and me looking happy. Jenny and I watched the view count climb. Within an hour, it had 10,000 views. By 10 o'clock, it was at 30,000. By midnight, it had hit 50,000 views. Apparently, people were fascinated by the society wedding angle. My phone had been on silent all day, tucked away in my purse. Around 10 at night, I checked it for the first time since the ceremony. I had 217 notifications. Text after text after text from Courtney. What the hell? His family is rich? Why didn't you tell us? Mom and Dad are freaking out. Call me right now. You manipulative bitch, you planned this. How dare you hide this from us? We deserve to know. You owe us. The messages kept going, angrier and angrier. I scrolled through them, feeling sick. Then I saw the missed calls. 23 from Courtney, 15 from my mother, 8 from my father. I listened to one of the voicemails from Courtney. She was screaming so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear. She called me a liar and a manipulator. She said I had deliberately trapped a rich man and hidden his wealth from my family. She said I was selfish and cruel for not sharing this information. My mother's voicemail was different, but equally disturbing. Her voice was sugary, sweet, fake. She said, "Laura, honey, we made a mistake. We are coming home early. We need to talk about this. Courtney is very upset. You know how sensitive she is. We are your family, and family takes care of each other." I felt rage building in my chest. Hours ago, they were laughing about sabotaging my wedding. Now that they knew Marcus's family had money, suddenly they wanted to talk. Suddenly, I was family again. I showed the messages to Marcus. His jaw clenched as he read them. He looked furious on my behalf. He said we should block all of them immediately and focus on enjoying our honeymoon. Catherine overheard and came over. She read a few of the messages and shook her head. Her advice was simple. Do not respond. Let them sit with their choices. Silence is more powerful than any words you could say. I blocked all 3 of them, my mother, my father, and Courtney. I turned off my phone completely and put it away. Marcus and I left the reception early to head to our honeymoon suite at a luxury hotel downtown. As we drove away from the venue, I looked back at the beautiful space filled with people who had celebrated with us, people who had shown up for us. I realized that Catherine was right. The family that mattered was the one that stood by you, not the one you were born into. That night, lying in bed next to my new husband, I felt a complex mixture of emotions: grief for the family I had lost, anger at their betrayal, but also hope for the future I was building with people who actually valued me. I had no idea that things were about to get so much worse. Marcus and I spent a week in the Caribbean for our honeymoon. It was paradise. White sand beaches, crystal blue water, complete privacy. We stayed at a resort where the staff made us feel like royalty. For 7 days, I did not think about my family at all. I just focused on my new husband and our future together. When we returned home, reality came crashing back. Marcus had bought us a house as a wedding gift. I had seen pictures, but not the actual property. It was in an upscale neighborhood, a beautiful 2-story home with a big yard and a modern kitchen. The kind of house I had dreamed about but never thought I could afford. We spent the first day unpacking and settling in. I was arranging books on a shelf when I decided to check my blocked messages. I knew I should not, but curiosity got the better of me. Over 200 texts. From Courtney, my mother, and my father. I sat down on the floor and read through them, watching the messages escalate from pleading to aggressive. The early ones said things like, "Please call us. We need to talk. We made a mistake." But as days passed with no response from me, they got uglier. "You owe us for raising you. We are your family. You cannot just cut us off. Courtney needs money for grad school, and you could easily help her now. You are selfish and ungrateful. We will tell everyone what kind of person you really are. Do not think you can just ignore us. We know where you live." That last one made my blood run cold. I showed Marcus, and he immediately suggested we change the security codes on the house and install cameras. I agreed, but felt sick about needing to protect myself from my own family. I reblocked them and tried to move forward. I was starting a new job the following week. I had been hired as a 4th grade teacher at a private elementary school. It was my dream job, something I had worked hard to get, and I was determined not to let family drama ruin it. The first week of work went well. The kids were sweet, my fellow teachers were friendly, and I felt like I was finally building the life I wanted. Marcus was supportive and encouraging. Catherine called regularly to check on me, and I was growing closer to her. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had a real mother figure. Then, 2 weeks after we got back from our honeymoon, everything fell apart. I was in the teacher's lounge during lunch, eating a sandwich and grading papers. Another teacher came in and said someone was asking for me in the parking lot. I assumed it was Marcus surprising me with lunch or something sweet like that. I walked outside and found Courtney standing next to her car. My stomach dropped. How did she know where I worked? How did she get past school security? Courtney saw me and immediately started yelling. Right there in the parking lot, in front of other teachers and some parents who were picking up their kids early. She screamed about how I had abandoned my family, how I had married for money, how I was a selfish person who only cared about myself. I tried to stay calm and quiet, asking her to leave. But she just got louder. She called me names I will not repeat. She said I was a gold digger who had trapped Marcus with lies. She claimed I had always been manipulative and fake. Other teachers came outside to see what was happening. Parents stopped and stared. I was mortified. I kept asking Courtney to leave, but she refused. She said she would not go until I agreed to help her financially. Finally, the school security guard came and escorted her off the property, but the damage was done. Everyone had witnessed my sister having a public meltdown and accusing me of terrible things. I went to the principal's office and explained the situation. I was shaking and on the verge of tears. The principal was sympathetic but concerned. She said that scene had been disruptive and unprofessional, and while she understood it was not my fault, she needed to make sure it would not happen again. I assured her it would not. I went straight from school to the police station and filed for a restraining order against Courtney. The officer who helped me was kind and thorough. I showed him the threatening texts and described the parking lot incident. He said I had good grounds for a restraining order and helped me file the paperwork. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 3 days later, I woke up to find that Courtney had started a social media campaign against me. She had created posts on multiple platforms saying that I had cut off my family because I married into wealth. She claimed I was too good for my working class roots now. She posted old photos of us as kids with captions like, "This is the sister who forgot where she came from," and "Money changed her into someone I do not recognize." The posts were getting shared in local community groups. People who did not know the full story started commenting. Some defended me, but others said things like family is family and you should never abandon your roots. A few people said I sounded like a spoiled rich bride who thought she was better than everyone else. I felt my carefully built reputation crumbling. I was a teacher at a private school. My character and judgment were important. These posts made me look cruel and elitist. Then a parent from my school saw the posts. She emailed the principal questioning my character and asking if the school had done a thorough background check. The principal forwarded me the email with a note saying, "We need to discuss this." I felt like I was drowning. Every time I tried to move forward, Courtney found a new way to attack me. Marcus suggested we hire a lawyer to send a cease and desist letter about the defamatory social media posts. We met with a lawyer who specialized in defamation and harassment cases. The lawyer said we definitely had a case for defamation. Courtney was posting false statements that were damaging my reputation. However, he warned that suing her might create even more publicity and drama. He suggested we start with a strong cease and desist letter and see if that worked. We sent the letter. Courtney ignored it completely. In fact, she doubled down and posted even more. Then something happened that made everything exponentially worse. My parents showed up at Catherine and Robert's office building downtown. They walked past the receptionist and tried to force their way into Robert's office. Security stopped them, but not before they caused a scene. They demanded a meeting with Marcus's parents. They said they were entitled to financial support now that I had married into wealth. They claimed it was only fair that the family share their resources. Then they made an implied threat. They said they would expose how Marcus's family manipulates people and hides their wealth for nefarious purposes unless they received what they called a reasonable settlement. It was extortion. Actual, explicit extortion. Robert had them escorted out by security. He called the police and filed a report, but I was horrified. My parents had not only abandoned me and sabotaged my wedding, but now they were trying to blackmail my in-laws. I felt like I could not breathe. The stress was crushing me. I started having panic attacks. I would wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, unable to calm down. I stopped eating properly. I lost 12 pounds in 2 weeks. Marcus was worried about me. Catherine was worried about me. But I felt helpless. How do you fight people who have no limits, no shame, no boundaries? The restraining order was approved, but Courtney was in another state now, so enforcement was complicated. The lawyer sent more letters, but they seemed to have no effect. My family was relentless. My new marriage was being tested in ways I never could have imagined. Marcus was supportive, but I could see the strain on him too. His family was dealing with harassment because of me. I started to wonder if he regretted marrying me. I asked him once, late at night, if he wished he had chosen someone without such a toxic family. He held me and said absolutely not. He said we were in this together, for better or worse, and we would get through it together. But I could hear the exhaustion in his voice. I did not know how much more I could take, and I had no idea that things were about to get infinitely worse. About a month after the wedding, things seemed to calm down. The restraining order was in place. The lawyer had sent cease and desist letters. Courtney's social media posts had slowed down after we threatened legal action. My parents had been banned from Robert's office building. I started to believe maybe the worst was over. Maybe they had finally given up and moved on. I should have known better. I was settling into my teaching routine. My students were wonderful, bright kids who made me remember why I loved teaching. I was planning a unit on American history, and the kids were excited about a project where they would research their family trees. One morning, I got called into the principal's office before school started. The moment I saw her face, I knew something was very wrong. She asked me to sit down. Then she showed me an email that had been sent to the entire school board the night before. It was from an anonymous email address, and it contained allegations about me that made my stomach turn. The email claimed I had been having an affair with a married colleague. It included what looked like photographs of me with David, one of the other fourth-grade teachers, in supposedly compromising situations. There were pictures that appeared to show us embracing in the parking lot, sitting very close together in a car, entering a hotel together. I stared at those images in complete shock. They looked real, but I knew they could not be because nothing like that had ever happened. David was married with 3 kids. We were friendly colleagues, nothing more. We had never been alone together outside of school. The principal said that school policy required a full investigation anytime there was an allegation of inappropriate conduct. I would be placed on administrative leave immediately, with pay, while they looked into the matter. I felt like the room was spinning. I tried to explain that those photos had to be fake, that I had never done anything inappropriate with David or anyone else. The principal said she believed me, but the board was insisting on a proper investigation. I was sent home that same morning. I had to pack up my desk while other teachers watched. I could see them whispering. I felt humiliated beyond measure. When I got home, I called Marcus at work, barely able to speak through my tears. He came home immediately. We looked at the photos together on my laptop, where the principal had forwarded them to me. Marcus pointed out immediately that they were fake. The lighting was off in some of them. The angles were impossible. In one photo, my face looked slightly distorted, like it had been copied and pasted from another image. We called the lawyer and also hired a forensic digital expert who specialized in detecting manipulated images. The expert confirmed within hours that every single photo was a sophisticated forgery. Someone had taken real photos of me and David from social media and school events, then digitally placed us into compromising scenarios. It was Courtney. It had to be. She had done this before with photoshopped images in her social media campaign, but nothing this elaborate or damaging. The lawyer sent all the evidence to the school board, but the damage was done. An investigation was still required. David was also placed on administrative leave, and I learned that his wife was devastated. Even though the photos were fake, The accusation itself was causing problems in his marriage. I felt terrible. An innocent man and his family were suffering because of my toxic family. I tried to call David to apologize, but his wife answered and hung up on me. For 3 days, I stayed home, barely eating or sleeping. Marcus worked from home to be with me. Catherine called multiple times to check on me. But I felt like I was in a nightmare I could not wake up from. Then things got worse. On the 3rd day, a local gossip blog picked up the story. Someone had sent them the fake photos, along with a narrative claiming that the wife of real estate heir Marcus Whitfield had a sordid past involving affairs with married men. The blog post went viral locally. Within hours, it had been shared thousands of times. The comments were brutal. People I had never met were calling me names, saying I was a homewrecker, that I had married Marcus for money after my affair was discovered. None of it was true. Not a single word. But truth did not matter anymore. The story was out there, and people believed it. Marcus's family started getting calls from business associates asking if the rumors were true. Catherine and Robert were being dragged into this mess. Their family name was being tarnished because of lies about me. I told Marcus that maybe we should separate temporarily. That maybe if he distanced himself from me, his family's reputation would be protected. He refused. He said we were married, we were partners, and he was not going anywhere. But I could see the stress wearing on him. His jaw was always clenched. He was not sleeping well. Our month-old marriage was being tested in ways that felt unbearable. The lawyer was pursuing legal action against the blog for publishing defamatory content. We had proof the images were fake. But these things take time. And meanwhile, my reputation was being destroyed in real time. Then came the final blow of that terrible week. David, the teacher from the fake photos, contacted me through his lawyer. He was threatening to sue me for defamation. His claim was that I had created or commissioned the fake photos myself to get attention or create drama, and that his marriage was suffering because of my actions. His lawyer's letter was harsh. It claimed I was an unstable attention seeker who had targeted his client. They were demanding financial compensation for emotional distress and marriage counseling costs. I could not believe it. I was the victim here, and now I was being accused of victimizing someone else. It was insane. Our lawyer explained that Courtney had probably contacted David or his wife and convinced them that I was behind the photos. Everything was spiraling completely out of control. My job was in jeopardy. My reputation was destroyed. My husband's family was being harassed. And now I was facing a lawsuit from someone I had never wronged. I stopped getting out of bed. I stopped showering. I could not eat. The panic attacks became constant. Marcus called my doctor, who prescribed anti-anxiety medication and referred me to a therapist. Catherine came to visit me. She sat on the edge of my bed and held my hand. She told me that this was Courtney's goal. She wanted to break me, to make me give up and give in. She said the only way to win was to keep fighting. But I did not feel like I had any fight left in me. I felt defeated and hopeless. How could I fight someone who kept finding new and more creative ways to destroy my life? Marcus called the lawyer and told him we needed to find proof that Courtney was behind everything. We needed evidence that would hold up in court. The lawyer said he would hire a private investigator to dig into Courtney's digital footprint and financial records. But that would take time, and I did not know if I had any time left. I felt like I was drowning, and every time I tried to surface for air, someone pushed me back under. Marcus held me at night while I cried. He kept telling me it would get better, that we would get through this. But I could hear the doubt in his voice. Neither of us knew how to fight an enemy who had no limits and no conscience. I had lost my job, my reputation, my sense of safety. I was facing a lawsuit. My husband's family was being harassed. And through it all, my phone kept buzzing with anonymous messages telling me I was worthless, that I should disappear, that no one wanted me around. I did not know how much more I could take. And I had no idea that the worst was still yet to come. The school investigation took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of sitting at home, watching daytime television, feeling like my life was on hold. Finally, the board concluded that the photos were definitively fake and that I had done nothing wrong. I was cleared of all accusations. But the damage was irreversible. The school offered me my contract back, but the principal pulled me aside and said it might be better if I looked for a position elsewhere. Parents had complained. Other teachers were uncomfortable. Even though I was innocent, the controversy had made my continued employment problematic. I understood what she was really saying. They wanted me gone. I resigned the next day. I was 29 years old, and my teaching career was effectively over before it had really begun. No other private school would hire me with this scandal in my background. Even public schools would Google my name and find the gossip blog posts and the controversy. Marcus kept reassuring me that we would figure it out, that I could take time to heal, and then decide what I wanted to do next. But I felt like a failure. Teaching was my passion, my calling, and Courtney had taken that from me too. The lawsuit from David was still pending. Our lawyer was negotiating, trying to make him understand that I was a victim, not a perpetrator. But David's wife had convinced him I was some kind of manipulative villain, and he would not back down. Marcus's parents hired private security for our house. There had been some incidents. Someone threw a rock through our window with a note attached that said "Home Wrecker." Someone spray-painted our mailbox. The security company installed cameras and started monitoring the property 24/7. I felt like a prisoner in my own home. I was afraid to go outside. I had stopped going to the grocery store because I had been recognized twice and people had confronted me. Once, a woman in the produce section called me a disgrace. Another time, someone took a photo of me and posted it online with a nasty caption. The online harassment was constant. Anonymous accounts would tag me in posts, calling me names, saying horrible things about me. I deleted my social media accounts, but that did not stop people from talking about me. Marcus was doing his best to stay strong, but I could see the toll this was taking on him too. He had dark circles under his eyes. He was short-tempered at work. Our marriage, barely 2 months old, was being tested in ways neither of us had anticipated. Catherine called me every day. She encouraged me to see the therapist regularly, to take care of myself, to not let Courtney win. But some days, I felt like Courtney had already won. She had successfully destroyed my life. Then, 2 months after the wedding, something happened that made everything else seem minor in comparison. It was a Tuesday night. Marcus was at a late business dinner with clients. I was home alone, watching a movie and trying to relax. Our security system was armed. I felt safe. Around 9:30, I heard glass breaking. Not at the front of the house. At the back, near the kitchen. I froze on the couch, my heart pounding. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911 while running upstairs to our bedroom. I locked the door and hid in the closet. I whispered to the dispatcher that someone had broken into my house. I gave her the address. She told me to stay hidden and quiet. Police were on the way. I could hear someone moving around downstairs. Heavy footsteps. Things being knocked over. I pressed my hand over my mouth to keep from making any sound. I was shaking so hard my teeth were chattering. It felt like forever, but the police arrived within 6 minutes. I heard shouting, then silence, then an officer calling up the stairs that it was safe to come out. I came downstairs to find a man in handcuffs being led out by 2 officers. He was maybe 40 years old, with a rough appearance and cold eyes. I had never seen him before in my life. The lead officer asked me questions. Had I been in contact with this man? Did I know him? I said no to everything. They found a backpack on him containing several items, photos of me, printed from social media and other sources, a notebook with my daily schedule written in it, my work address, even though I was no longer employed there, the times I usually left the house, the grocery store I frequented. He had been stalking me. For how long I did not know, but he had detailed information about my life. When the officers questioned him, he said he had been hired to deliver a message. He would not say by whom. He said he was paid cash to scare me, nothing more. He claimed he was not going to hurt me, just frighten me. I did not believe that for a second. The look in his eyes was menacing. Who knows what he would have done if the police had not arrived so quickly? The man had a criminal record: breaking and entering, assault, drug charges. He was exactly the kind of person you would hire if you wanted to intimidate someone. The police arrested him for breaking and entering and stalking. They said they would investigate who hired him. But since he had been paid in cash by someone he met online, it would be difficult to prove. But everyone knew it was Courtney. She had escalated from psychological warfare to actual physical intimidation. Marcus came home to find police cars outside and me sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, shaking uncontrollably. He lost his composure for the first time since this whole nightmare started. He broke down crying, holding me, saying he was sorry he had not been there, sorry he had not protected me. I could not sleep that night. Every sound made me jump. Marcus stayed awake with me, holding my hand, trying to comfort me. But I felt traumatized in a way I had never experienced before. Someone had been in my home. Someone dangerous. Someone who knew intimate details about my life. The next morning, Catherine and Robert came over. Catherine looked at me and knew immediately that I was not okay. She gently suggested I see a psychiatrist who could prescribe something to help with the trauma and anxiety. That afternoon, Marcus found a letter in our mailbox. No stamp, hand-delivered. My hands shook as I opened it. The handwriting was Courtney's. The letter said, "You thought you were so smart marrying rich. You took everything from me, Mom and Dad's attention, the money I deserved, the life I should have had. I am not stopping until you give me what is mine. $1 million and I disappear. Otherwise, this is just the beginning. Next time, I will not hire someone. I will handle it myself. You have 1 week." It was explicit extortion combined with a threat of violence. We took the letter immediately to the police. They said they would open an investigation, but Courtney was in another state. She had fled after the break-in incident, probably knowing police would come looking for her. The detective said they would work with law enforcement in the state where Courtney was now living. But these things took time. Meanwhile, she was still free and still dangerous. Catherine suggested we hire private security, not just for the house, but a personal bodyguard for me. I refused. I did not want to live that way. I did not want to be so afraid that I needed armed protection. But the fear was consuming me. I could not eat. I had lost 20 pounds since the wedding. I could not sleep without medication. I jumped at every noise. I could not be alone without having a panic attack. Marcus's parents arranged for me to see a trauma specialist. I started therapy twice a week. The psychiatrist prescribed medication for anxiety and depression. But nothing seemed to help. I felt broken in a fundamental way. A week after the break-in, Courtney's deadline passed. I did not pay her. I refused to be extorted, but I was terrified about what she would do next. Then my parents appeared on local television. A news station had contacted them asking for comment on the controversy surrounding their daughter. Instead of defending me or staying quiet, they gave an interview. They said they were deeply concerned about my mental health. They claimed that the stress of marrying into wealth had changed me. They said I was fabricating stories about my sister because I could not handle the pressure of my new life. They suggested I needed psychiatric help. The interview was calculated and cruel. They positioned themselves as worried parents dealing with a troubled daughter. They made me look unstable and unreliable. The local news station ran the segment, "Concerned Parents Speak Out About Daughter's Troubles." It painted me as someone having a mental breakdown, someone whose accusations against her family were the result of psychological problems rather than actual harassment. Some people believed it. Comments on the news station's social media were split. Half the people said my parents seemed genuinely concerned. The other half said something seemed off about their story. But the damage was done. Now, there was a public narrative that I was mentally unstable, that I was making false accusations, that I was the problem, not Courtney. I watched that interview in my living room, and something inside me finally broke. I turned to Marcus and said I could not do this anymore. I could not keep fighting. I was too tired, too scared, too broken. Marcus grabbed my shoulders and looked me in the eyes. He said no. We were not giving up. We were not letting them win. It was time to stop playing defense and start playing offense. Catherine and Robert came over that night. We sat around the dining table, and Marcus laid out a plan. We were going to hire the best private investigator money could buy. We were going to find everything on Courtney. Every crime, every lie, every scheme. We were going to expose her completely. Robert said he would use his business connections to trace Courtney's financial records. Catherine said she knew people in law enforcement who could help push the investigation forward. The lawyer said he would prepare a comprehensive legal strategy. For the first time in months, I felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could fight back. Maybe we could win. But I had no idea what we were about to uncover. And I had no idea how much worse things would get before they got better. The private investigator Marcus hired was named Thomas Kane. He was a former FBI agent who now ran his own firm specializing in corporate and personal investigations. He was expensive, but Marcus said cost did not matter. We needed the best. Thomas worked for 2 weeks straight. He accessed databases most people do not even know exist. He interviewed people from Courtney's past. He tracked her digital footprint. He followed her financial transactions. He built a complete profile of her life. What he found was shocking even to me, and I already knew Courtney was terrible. She had been running scams for years. Long before my wedding, long before she knew about Marcus's family wealth, she had created fake investment opportunities and convinced people to give her money. She had used stolen credit card information to make purchases. She had written bad checks and skipped town before they bounced. Thomas found at least 7 victims who had filed complaints about Courtney in various jurisdictions. Most of the complaints had not gone anywhere because Courtney always moved before anyone could catch her. She would run a scam, take the money, and disappear to another city. There were outstanding warrants for her arrest in 2 different states. Fraud charges, identity theft, grand larceny. She was a career criminal, and I had not even known. The investigator also traced the man who had broken into our house. Through phone records and financial forensics, he found proof that Courtney had paid him. She had used a burner phone and cryptocurrency, but there was a digital trail. It was enough to connect her directly to the crime. He found evidence of the photoshopped images on Courtney's computer. She had been sloppy with her digital security, and Thomas had found her cloud backup. The original files were there, along with the software she used to manipulate them. He found recordings of phone calls where Courtney bragged about sabotaging my wedding. She had told friends about canceling my vendors, about taking our parents to Paris, about the cruel letter she left. She had laughed about it, called it the best revenge ever. Thomas compiled everything into a massive file. Photos, documents, recordings, financial records, witness statements. It was airtight evidence of years of criminal behavior. We took everything to the police and to the district attorney's office. The DA looked through the file and said they had more than enough to issue warrants for Courtney's arrest on multiple felony charges. She was looking at serious prison time if convicted. We also took the evidence to our lawyer. He said we had an overwhelming case for civil damages. We could sue for defamation, emotional distress, harassment, and more. The financial penalties could be in the millions. I felt a surge of vindication. Finally, we had proof. Finally, we could hold Courtney accountable. But the lawyer cautioned us. He said that exposing all of this publicly might create more media attention. He suggested we use the evidence strategically rather than dumping it all at once. Marcus, Catherine, Robert, the lawyer, and I developed a plan. We would arrange a meeting with my parents and Courtney. We would tell them we wanted to discuss a financial settlement. Once they showed up, we would confront them with all the evidence. We would give Courtney a choice: turn herself in voluntarily and face the consequences, or we would have her arrested on the spot. It was risky, but we wanted to see their faces when they realized they had lost. The lawyer contacted my parents and said that Marcus's family was willing to negotiate a settlement to end the ongoing disputes. My parents jumped at the opportunity. They probably thought they were finally going to get the money they felt they deserved. We arranged for the meeting to take place at the lawyer's office on a Wednesday afternoon. Neutral territory, professional setting. We had security present just in case things got out of hand. Wednesday came. I dressed carefully in a professional dress and jacket. I wanted to look strong, composed, unbroken. Marcus wore a suit. Catherine and Robert looked powerful and intimidating. The lawyer had all the evidence files ready in folders on the conference table. My parents arrived first. They looked smug. My mother was wearing an expensive new outfit, probably bought on credit, with the expectation that she would soon have money to pay it off. My father kept grinning like he had already won. Then Courtney walked in. She looked confident, almost cocky. She sat down and said, "So, you finally came to your senses. Smart move." The lawyer invited everyone to sit. There were 7 of us total in that conference room. Me, Marcus, Catherine, Robert, the lawyer, my mother, my father, and Courtney. The lawyer started by thanking everyone for coming. He said that we hoped to resolve things amicably and find a path forward that worked for everyone. My parents nodded eagerly. Then the lawyer opened the first folder. He slid a document across the table to Courtney. It was a police report from one of her fraud victims. He slid another document. A warrant for her arrest. Another document. Bank records showing stolen funds. Courtney's face went from confident to confused to pale white in about 30 seconds. The lawyer kept going. He showed evidence of the photoshopped images, proof that she had paid the man who broke into our house. Recordings of her bragging about sabotaging my wedding. Financial records documenting years of criminal activity. He explained calmly that all of this evidence had been provided to law enforcement. Warrants had been issued for her arrest on multiple felony charges. She was facing between 5 and 15 years in prison if convicted on all counts. Additionally, we were filing civil lawsuits for damages that could result in financial penalties in the millions of dollars. Even if she served her prison time, she would be financially destroyed for the rest of her life. Courtney sat there, completely frozen. Her mouth was open, but no sound came out. She looked like she might throw up. My mother started crying. Not sad crying. Angry, panicky crying. She looked at me and said, "How can you do this to your own sister? How can you destroy her life like this?" I stood up. I had practiced what I wanted to say, but in the moment, the words came from somewhere deeper. I said, "You want to know how I can do this? You abandoned me on my wedding day. You laughed about sabotaging the most important day of my life. You harassed me, stalked me, destroyed my career, threatened my safety. You tried to extort money from my husband's family. You sent someone to break into my home. And through all of it, you too supported her. You enabled her. You mocked my pain." I looked at each of them. My mother, still crying. My father, looking angry and defensive. Courtney, looking terrified. I continued, "You were never my family. You were people who shared my DNA but never loved me. Real family shows up. Real family supports you. Real family does not abandon you and then demand money when they realize you married well." I gestured to Marcus, Catherine, and Robert. These people are my family. They showed me what real love looks like. They protected me. They fought for me. They never gave up on me. I looked back at my parents. "You wanted my money? You get nothing. You wanted me in your life? You do not deserve me. As of today, you are dead to me. All 3 of you." My father stood up and started yelling. He said I was ungrateful. He said they had raised me and I owed them. He said I had always been selfish and cold. The lawyer calmly interrupted. He said that if any of them attempted to contact me or my family again, additional charges would be filed for harassment and violating protective orders. He recommended they leave immediately and that Courtney turn herself in to police within 24 hours. If she did not, they would have her arrested. Courtney finally found her voice. She said this was not fair. She said I had taken everything from her. She said she deserved better. I looked at her and said, "You deserve exactly what you are getting. You destroyed yourself. I just made sure you faced consequences for it." Security escorted all 3 of them out of the building. I watched them go, and I felt something I had not felt in months. Relief, closure, power. Marcus hugged me. Catherine squeezed my hand. Robert nodded approvingly. The lawyer said we had done everything right. I had stood up to my abusers. I had fought back. And I had won. The next day, Courtney turned herself in to police. She was arrested and formally charged with multiple felonies, including fraud, identity theft, stalking, criminal conspiracy, and extortion. She could not make bail. She sat in jail awaiting trial. Her lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal. Our lawyer recommended we agree to it if the sentence was substantial. After weeks of negotiations, Courtney pleaded guilty to avoid a lengthy trial. She was sentenced to 5 years in prison. 5 years. It was not enough for everything she had done, but it was something. She would be behind bars, unable to hurt me anymore. My parents tried to contact me a few more times. Letters, emails, phone calls to Marcus's office. We ignored everything. Eventually, they gave up. I later learned that they had lost their house. They had taken out loans and run up credit card debt, expecting to get money from me. When that did not happen, they could not pay their bills. They were forced to sell the house and move to a small apartment in another city. I felt no sympathy. They had made their choices. The school investigation had concluded months earlier, clearing me of all wrongdoing. They offered me my job back, but I declined. Too much had happened. Too many people knew about the scandal. I needed a fresh start. I decided to go back to school. I enrolled in a graduate program to get my certification in school counseling. It felt like a natural evolution. I could still work with kids, still be in education, but in a different capacity. The program was intensive, but I threw myself into it. It gave me purpose and direction. It helped me heal. Meanwhile, our lives started to stabilize. The harassment stopped completely with Courtney in prison. The online gossip died down as new scandals took over people's attention. Slowly, gradually, I started to feel like myself again. Marcus and I grew closer through the ordeal. We had been tested in ways most newlyweds never experience, and we had survived. Our marriage was stronger because of it. Catherine became the mother I had always wanted. She checked on me regularly. She supported my decision to go back to school. She treated me like a daughter, not a daughter-in-law. I started working with a therapist who specialized in family estrangement and trauma. She helped me process everything that had happened. She helped me understand that cutting off toxic family members was not cruel. It was self-preservation. I joined a support group for people who had been estranged from their families. Hearing other people's stories made me feel less alone. I realized that lots of people deal with abusive relatives. Lots of people have to make the difficult choice to walk away. I started to feel hope again. Real, genuine hope for the future. 1 year after my wedding, Marcus and I found out I was pregnant. We were overjoyed. Catherine cried happy tears when we told her. Robert shook Marcus's hand and hugged me. Jenny threw us a baby shower that was filled with love and laughter. As my pregnancy progressed, I finished my graduate program. I passed my exams and received my certification. I was officially a licensed school counselor. I got a job at a different private school across town. They did not Google my name or know about the scandal. I was just Laura, a new counselor with good references and strong qualifications. I told my new principal about my past during the interview process, just to be transparent. She said everyone deserves a second chance, and that my experience with trauma might actually make me better at my job. She was right. Working with kids who were struggling with family issues or bullying or anxiety, I could relate in a way many counselors could not. I had been through darkness and come out the other side. I could help them see that healing was possible. My pregnancy was healthy and uneventful. Marcus was attentive and excited. Catherine helped me prepare the nursery. We painted it a soft yellow and filled it with books and toys. Around month 7 of my pregnancy, I received a letter in the mail. Prison stamp. Return address from the correctional facility where Courtney was serving her sentence. I almost threw it away without reading it. But curiosity got the better of me. I opened it. The letter was surprisingly short. Courtney wrote that she had a lot of time to think in prison. She said she was sorry for what she had done. She said she had always been jealous of me and that jealousy had turned into something toxic and destructive. She said she hoped someday I might forgive her, but she understood if I could not. It was not much of an apology. It was vague and self-serving, but it was something. I read it once, then I folded it up and put it in a drawer. I did not respond. I did not feel angry or sad or anything really. I just felt indifferent. That indifference was actually healing. For so long, Courtney had occupied so much space in my mind. She had been a constant source of fear and stress. Now she was just a person I used to know who made terrible choices. I realized that the best revenge was not anger or retaliation. It was living well. It was building a beautiful life that she could not touch. 3 weeks before my due date, my mother called Marcus's office. His assistant took the message. My mother wanted to know if she could visit after the baby was born. She said she wanted to be a grandmother. She said enough time had passed and family should be together. Marcus asked me what I wanted to do. Part of me felt sad. This was my mother. Despite everything, there was a small piece of me that wished things could be different. But I knew better. My mother had not changed. She had not apologized. She just wanted access to my baby, because that seemed like the socially acceptable thing to do. I told Marcus to have his assistant send a polite but firm response. We would not be allowing any contact. Our child would not grow up knowing people who had treated me so cruelly. Marcus supported my decision completely. Catherine said she was proud of me for setting boundaries. I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. We named her Emma. She was perfect, tiny and beautiful, and everything I had ever dreamed of. Catherine was in the delivery room with us. She held my hand through the labor and cried when Emma was born. She became grandma from day one, and she was wonderful at it. Robert was a doting grandfather. Jenny was named godmother. Our little family was not traditional, but it was full of love. As I held Emma in the hospital, looking at her tiny face, I thought about everything that had brought me to this moment. The pain, the betrayal, the fear, but also the love, the support, the strength I had found within myself. I thought about my wedding day, which had started as a nightmare but led me to discover who my real family was. I thought about Courtney, sitting in a prison cell, facing the consequences of her actions. I thought about my parents, living their lives without me, probably telling people that I was the one who had abandoned them. And I felt at peace. I had chosen to walk away from toxicity and toward love. I had chosen people who valued me over people who used me. I had built a life that was authentic and healthy and full of joy. Emma stirred in my arms, making soft baby noises. Marcus leaned over and kissed both of us. Catherine took photos, capturing the moment. I realized that this was what I had been searching for my whole life. Not the perfect family I was born into, but the perfect family I chose and created. Emma is 3 years old now. She is smart, funny, and full of life. She calls Catherine and Robert her grandma and grandpa. She does not know that my birth parents exist, and I am okay with that. Someday, when she is older, I will tell her the story. But for now, she is just a happy kid with a family that loves her. I have been working as a school counselor for almost 4 years. I love my job. I work with kids who are going through difficult situations, and I can honestly tell them that things get better. I am living proof. Courtney was released from prison 6 months ago after serving her full sentence. She tried to contact me once through social media. I blocked her immediately. I do not wish her harm, but I do not want her in my life either. She made her choices, and I made mine. My parents have never met Emma. They send cards on her birthday and Christmas, which I throw away unopened. They exist somewhere out there, but they are not part of my story anymore. Marcus and I are talking about having another baby. Our marriage is strong and healthy. We have been through the worst possible circumstances early on, and we survived. Everything else feels easy in comparison. Catherine and I have coffee together every week. She is more of a mother to me than my own ever was. She supports me, encourages me, and loves me unconditionally. Robert treats me like his daughter. They include me in all family decisions and celebrations. I run a support group now for people who have experienced family estrangement. We meet twice a month at a local community center. People share their stories, their pain, and their healing journeys. I facilitate the discussions and provide resources. It amazes me how many people are dealing with toxic family members. How many people feel guilty for setting boundaries. How many people think they are alone in their struggles. I tell them what I learned. That blood does not make you family. Love makes you family. Showing up makes you family. Support and respect and genuine care make you family. I tell them that walking away from people who hurt you is not cruel. It is an act of self-love. It is choosing your mental health and well-being over obligation and guilt. I tell them that silence is powerful. Courtney wanted attention, drama, and reaction. By refusing to engage, by building my life without her, I took away her power. She could not hurt me if I did not give her access to my life. I learned that you cannot change other people. You can only control your own choices and responses. I could not make my parents love me properly, or make Courtney stop being jealous and destructive. But I could choose to remove myself from their toxicity. I learned that real family is chosen, not assigned. Marcus chose to love me. Catherine and Robert chose to welcome me. Jenny chose to stand by me. Those choices mean more than any blood relation ever could. I learned that healing is possible. For months, I thought I would never feel happy again. The trauma felt insurmountable. But with therapy, support, time, and determination, I healed. I am not the same person I was before everything happened. I am stronger, wiser, and more resilient. I look at Emma playing in our backyard, chasing butterflies and laughing. I think about the life Marcus and I are building for her. A life filled with love, safety, and healthy relationships. She will grow up knowing what real family looks like. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how things turned out, if I wish I still had a relationship with my birth family. The answer is no, not even a little bit. My wedding day, which started as the worst day of my life, turned into the beginning of my best life. It forced me to see the truth about my family. It led me to discover my real family. It taught me that I was stronger than I ever knew. Courtney thought she was destroying me when she sabotaged my wedding. Instead, she freed me. She showed me exactly who she was, and I finally believed her. She gave me permission to walk away without guilt. My parents thought they were punishing me by abandoning me. Instead, they showed me I did not need them. I could build a beautiful life without their approval or presence. The people who tried to break me actually made me stronger. Every attack, every betrayal, every moment of pain refined me into someone more resilient and authentic. I am happy now, genuinely, deeply happy. I wake up grateful for my husband, my daughter, my in-laws, my job, my friends. I have peace in my heart that I never had when I was trying to earn love from people incapable of giving it. Last week, I was tucking Emma into bed and she said, "Mommy, I love our family." Such a simple statement, but it made me cry happy tears. She loves our family, not because it is perfect or traditional or what society expects, but because it is filled with people who show up, who care, who love authentically. That is what family should be. That is what family is. To anyone listening to this story who is dealing with toxic family members, I want you to know something. You are not alone. You are not crazy. You are not cruel for setting boundaries or walking away. You deserve to be treated with respect and love. You deserve peace. It is okay to choose yourself. It is okay to say no. It is okay to cut ties with people who hurt you, even if they are related to you. Blood does not give anyone permission to abuse you. Build your chosen family. Surround yourself with people who value you. Create the life you deserve, not the life others think you should have. And remember that silence and boundaries are not weakness. They are strength. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply walk away and build something beautiful without the people who tried to tear you down. I did it, you can too. My sister thought she was winning when she left for Paris on my wedding day. She thought she was destroying me by sabotaging my ceremony and turning my parents against me. She had no idea that she was actually setting me free. She had no idea that my husband's family would embrace me with open arms. She had no idea that I would find strength I never knew I had. She had no idea that her cruelty would backfire so completely. And when she finally saw my wedding on television and realized what she had missed, when she blew up my phone with desperate messages, I stayed silent. That silence was my victory. That silence was my power. I chose peace over drama. I chose love over obligation. I chose my future over my past, and I have never looked back. So what about you? Have you ever had to walk away from toxic family members? How did you find the strength to choose yourself? What does family mean to you? I would love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, or if you think it might help someone else who is struggling, please hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming adversity and finding strength in difficult situations. And share this with anyone who might need to hear that they are not alone in their family struggles. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it brought you comfort, inspiration, or at least the knowledge that healing is possible even after the deepest betrayals. Remember that you are stronger than you think, you deserve better than settling for cruelty, and your chosen family is just as valid and important as your blood family. Take care of yourselves, set your boundaries, choose your peace, and never let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting your own well-being. Until next time, I wish you love, strength, and the courage to build the life you truly deserve.